Hi, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hi, sir. Hi, sir.
Hi, girls.
Can I sit with you?
Are you an instructor?
I want to sit with you.
Well, I know, but you didn't answer my question.
No.
No. Okay. You girls should play and eat your snack. Did you choose this? What? I asked for a snack. I said it was okay. What did you choose as a snack?
Orange.
An orange? You better go eat that. I'll be right back, sir. I'm going to get one more cup of coffee.
You know what I'm saying, John? Just gotta tap in place.
Accompany myself like next stress. Just trying to make the process easier.
Copy that. But you better do what Greg says.
You having fun?
I'm having a great time.
I think I'm on here with Mr. Hyatt. He's somewhere.
You guys working?
We
Yes,
are,
sir.
sir. We're
Can you guys
trying
hear me
to-
okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. Look at you guys doing double duty, working and
We gotta keep working, sir.
We got so much work to do.
Busy.
I wanted to at least call and say hi. 'Cause it'll be really loud over here. My son-in-law is making lots of noise.
oh, look at that. Nice deck.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's gonna be. Are you having people in class today as well, or is it just mostly Zoom?
I think it's gonna be Zoom. I thought more people would show up,
Please.
but no one showed up, so it's just
I
me.
was gonna show up today actually. If we were trying to do this in the afternoon, but Phil and John both had commitments, and so I had to go with the flow and come
Yeah,
in.
that's fine.
I asked him, he said no.
We all know who the real boss is, right there. That's the real boss, right there. That guy.
That's him.
Listen,
The
just
guy
do
in
what he
blue.
says, okay? It's easier.
The guy in blue.
Just do what he says.
Nice and hot out here today, though. Not like
I'm in the
yesterday.
shade. I'm smart.
I'm sure it's gonna get worse as the day progresses. So.
Oh yeah, that's what they say. So what are your topic was?
We're gonna try to
talking to
diagnose
students.
technique. I was gonna have someone come in, or have one of you guys, if you guys came in, to, right? Everyone kind of watch and go, okay, right? What can they improve on, or what are they doing incorrectly?
Right.
Right.
All right. So
Sounds like good thing.
That'll sound like a full class of just me alone.
hey, you know, it is what it is, though. So
Always improving.
That's good.
yeah. Oh, we'll see. Well, we'll just give it a couple minutes, and if not, Mr. Giles is here.
Oh, Mr.
All
Giles
right.
is here.
So maybe we can diagnose him.
Good job.
All
Hey,
right,
way to
so-
go.
Way to go, Mr. Giles. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was the
right.
lucky-
So he just pulled up into the parking lot. So
Okay.
Nice.
all right.
Well,
Hello, sir.
are you recording this one too, sir?
I am recording.
All right.
I'm recording all your noise and all your distractions and everything.
Thank you, sir.
I might be able to listen. I just won't be able to see.
That's fine. All right.
All right, sir. Have a good class, sir.
Have a good class. I'm going to
Yep.
go on, I think, here, however I do that.
Okay,
You do that-
sounds
you do
good.
that, sir.
Hi, Miss
How you
Julia.
doing, sir?
All right.
sir.
All right, you guys. Yeah, it is. Yeah. He is. He's gotten better. So, Yep. All right, we're gonna give it 2 minutes, and then we'll get going. So, Mr. Giles will be our one and only guinea pig for today's exercise. Uh-huh. That's late last night. That's this morning. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Okay. Got it. Hey, party at Giles' house next weekend. DJ party. Club quarantine at Giles' house next week. So bring your dancing shoes. We're going to do lots of TikTok videos. Yeah, Mr. Hooks is really good. He's very talented, no doubt. No doubt. Seen some of his stuff. I mean, he spends a lot of time editing, but yeah, he's got a lot more time to do that than train, obviously. Yeah, Mr. Hooks. Yeah, we're calling you out, man, just so you know. And you're not even here to defend yourself. It's okay. All right. Well, Julia's back in the fold. She took a little hiatus and so forth. Now she's back in the fold doing things. So kind of training from home for her. But she can apply some of this stuff to helping her sister get ready for her black belt test. So this will be good. So and then Mr. Hyatt's been in with the girls. They were in last night partying. So Mr. Daniel, obviously, as you can see from his picture, he's still MIA. So, work is the excuse. Oh, here he goes. Yeah. They're installing a deck.
That's okay, Master High. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm still there every week. You just can't see me.
Yeah, got it.
I took 2 classes last night and two on Wednesday night.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Do you need to stretch at all or anything? No, I was just gonna have you demonstrate some of your kicks, just whatever. Good. All right. All right. So let's see. Mr. Hyde just stepped away. So Miss Julia, real quick, what do you think is the hardest kick to master?
Well, for me personally, I think it's either like side kick or hook kick. Like when I was first a yellow belt, like side kick kind of seemed easy, but like after like being in like competition team and like putting it into like punseis, it's like hard.
It's hard, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. Good. How about you, Mr. Hyatt?
I would agree. Hook kick above side kick, just because you have all the technique of the side kick, but then you have an additional movement, bringing that leg across, and then getting a good pivot and so forth.
Okay. Well, fair enough. All right. I think we have our 2 kicks that we can kind of work on, and Mr. Giles has graciously volunteered been voluntold to demonstrate so that you guys can kind of see. So I'm going to kind of
Thank you, sir.
All right. So, Mr. Giles, when you're doing these toward the camera screen, just keep everything at a moderate level, so you don't need to worry about kicking high. We know, obviously, for those that are more limber, obviously the hook kick's going to be higher, the side kick's going to be higher, and so forth. Unfortunately, my daughter's out doing girly things today, so that's why she's not here. Or else I'd have you guys diagnose her side kicks and hook kicks and things like that. So, and you guys are probably going, oh, what? She needs diagnosing? It's like, yes, of course. We all need diagnosing on our technique. That's how we get better. That's how we improve on what we do. So, sorry, hold on just a second. Oh, here she goes. Trying to tell me something. Jeez. All right. So let's do this. All right, so I'm going to we'll start with the side kick, because obviously the side kick is the precursor to the hook kick, right? The side kick is very difficult. You're absolutely correct, Julia, right? It seems like you can throw a side kick, and it may look good, but it may not be effective, right? And that may not be strong. So in Taekwondo, in our kicking technique, side kick is the strongest kick that we have. All right. Side kick incorporates the utilization of our hip thrust, our hip flexors. And so when we learn to thrust our hip into our target, it creates a tremendous amount of force. So side kicks, stepping up side kicks, skip side kicks, flying side kicks. Those types of kicks are always the ones that are going to give you the most power. And typically, like when you test for black belts, that's what you typically see for power breaking, right? So there's a young lady who competed at the Hamadong years ago that has a world record for reverse side kick, right? Breaking boards. I think she broke 11 boards with a reverse side kick, right? A woman. So she holds the record for reverse side kick board breaking. And that's, it's those 3/4 inch white pine boards that we use for black belt testing. All right. So think of 11 of those things. And she hit it with a reverse side kick, right? So it's not just a power that, the power that you generate from your leg. It's also the timing, how you can actually extend your heel into the target is going to be critical in what we do. All right. So I'm going to have Mr. Giles just kind of throw a few side kicks for you guys. Right. Go ahead and just at a moderate level. Okay. Can you guys see that okay? Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. All right. So just on basic observation of those 6 or 7 kicks that he threw, what did you notice from him? Yeah, perfection, right? No. Let's try it.
Perfection.
Any thoughts?
I didn't see a full pivot, and also a loss of looking at your target, because you are, I don't know, kind of facing backwards. I think there's more of a shoulder turn there.
Okay. All right, good. How about you, Miss Julia?
Well, I didn't think like the heel was more towards the target. It was like more towards the side a little bit.
Okay, so like targeting like where he was kicking.
Mm-hmm.
So not kicking straight down that line to be able to kick exactly toward his target. Okay. All right. So it's good that you start to see some of these things. Those are key components to that side kick. All right. Pivot is a key component, right? You guys realize that when we do that exercise where we rotate the neck side to side, right? You know what that's geared toward is to develop range of motion. Because typically for most people, they limit their motion to here. They'll turn to adjust, right? They'll turn their shoulder. So think about this, right? I'm facing you and get ready to do a side kick, right? So if I can only turn my head this much and I can't really quite see my target because I can't really see you guys, right? What do I need to do to compensate?
Turn your shoulders.
I'm going to turn my shoulder. So you'll see a lot of people when they do side kick, it looks like this. Okay? So what happened was here, because I can't get my head around enough, I am turning so that I can see. This happens a lot with reverse side kick as well. Right? You'll see a lot of people when they do that reverse side kick, it becomes like this. All right? Because why? Because they're not used to turning that head all the way to the side. Right? So when we do this exercise at the very beginning of class, it's to kind of help stretch out those neck muscles, right? Without putting compression on the vertebrae in your neck, right? So all we're doing here is rotating side to side to get those muscles to stretch out and be a little bit looser. And then when we go up and down, we're not going like this because once again, here you start to compress vertebrae, right? And over time, right, as you get older, if you do that a lot, it's going to hurt your neck. It's going to weaken your neck. So we just go from here to here at this point, right? So that the neck kind of stays on a swivel, right? We don't want it to be tight because I'm sure everyone here has woken up with a stiff neck at some point. And you go, I can't turn my neck. it hurts to turn my neck. So you don't want to be like this, right? You actually want to have some mobility to be able to turn that neck. So it's important to make sure that you guys are working on this to try to get that chin all the way to your side. The more you can do that, the easier your side kick gets. Okay, that's the first thing. All right. So the second thing that Mr. Hyatt brought up was the issue of the pivot. All right. So I'm gonna I'll slide this down a little bit. All right. So the pivot, right? Typically, we will start here, right, with the toes pointed toward our target. As we lift, we start to turn our foot. Okay. So when we're teaching this, what I like to do is when you're starting with the side kick, I always like to keep them in that the horse riding stance position. Okay, to start, right? Because this trains them for knee positioning. Where does the knee have to be before you start your kick? Okay, so the first exercise that I usually do is just have them lift like this. One. Okay, kind of like standing on a platform. Right? This is all I'm doing, right? This, in essence, is what I'm doing, right? It's just lifting my legs so like I'm flat on that platform, right? What this does is it makes sure that my foot is, my toes are kind of pulled up so that I'm hitting with more the flat of my foot versus lifting and just kind of letting my ankle dangle. Okay? I'm lifting my foot. So it's almost like I'm standing here, but on one leg. Okay, so that's the first thing. So all you do from here is if you're going to work with someone that does not know side kick, this is what you work on here. One, just this knee lift, right? It doesn't have to be high, it just has to be here, right? That's the first thing, okay? Then the second thing you have to work on is the pivot point, right? The pivoting, right? That's where you have to kind of push up to the toes and then turn that heel toward the target, okay? Keep in mind here, right? This is the hardest part for most people, okay? You'll see a lot of this. Now I'm going to do it from a front view, okay? So from here, I'm up here like this, right? When they pivot toward the target, right? You see what I did? Okay? They do this, and they're always falling off to the side. They don't have good balance, right? Instead of from here to this. Okay, so if you notice what my knee did, my knee didn't move this way. Okay, for a lot of people, when they first start this kick, to try to generate the momentum for your pivot, right? They turn the shoulder and then they pull the knee across to kind of help with the turn, which those are balance off. All right, so what we need to do is we need to make sure that the students are keeping the knee up, and then when they pivot, right, all they're doing is just tilting the knee so that the heel is forward, right? The heel is basically toward the target, okay? So from here, when I do my pivot towards you, you see how my heel kind of comes up towards you, right? So once it's up toward the target, then from here I can push out. And that's what we want. We want that knee to move from point A to point B, being pushed out, okay? The easiest thing to do, or the easiest way to train this, is from here without the pivot, right? If they're struggling with the push part, okay? It's just from here, push down. Push down. No pivot, push down. Okay? That trains them to move that knee toward the target. Okay? Because why? Right? That's where we have to have this push motion into the target to create force. Right? If we don't push, right, we're not going to generate enough linear force to move, to have power in our kick, because side kick is a linear kick. Right? It's not like roundhouse kick, which is a circular kick, which utilizes more centripetal force, circular force to create the power, okay? Right? You're not going to be able to break 11 boards with a roundhouse kick, right? Your knee is going to break before the boards break, or your ankle or your foot is going to break before the boards break on a roundhouse kick. Okay? Right? You can break 11 boards with a side kick. Why? Because you're pushing straight ahead into the target, and you've got the backing of your hip, right? Your hip and your body to support the amount of force that's impacting into the target. Right? With a roundhouse kick, because you're coming in a circular motion, right? You don't have anything behind this part here, behind your heel moving in toward the target. Right? You only have this little thing called your leg. Right? It's like a toothpick. Right? You put a little pressure on it and the toothpick bends. You put a lot of pressure on it, the toothpick snaps. Right? Roundhouse kick would be the same thing. Front kick would be the same thing. You hit real hard with that, trying to break 3, 4. I remember my instructor was testing for his 3rd degree black belt when I was a white belt. And he did a jumping front kick on 4 boards. All right, kind of jumping forward. He was coming in, boom, this way, right? Right? He didn't get through it. He broke his ankle. He broke his foot. Right? He broke his ankle. Because basically when he hit the board here this way, everything pulled back. So he broke his ankle, and I think he may have torn a part of his Achilles tendon because of that. Right? Even though he was kicking with the ball of his foot. But because it's 4 boards, it's hard to get a forward push. Right? And plus that, he was up in the air. Because he was jumping forward, right? Kind of like take a parchang, right? Imagine doing 4 boards using that jumping front kick from take a parchang. Julia's like, I can do it. Right? It's very difficult to generate a lot of force when you're up in the air, right? Like that, right? But if you're sideways, right? If you do it as a jumping side kick, right? Now you've got your body behind it. Because why? Everything's in a straight line. Right? So you got this linear kick and your body's lined up straight as well. So you've got all of this force moving toward that target. So it's important from here when you're pushing, right? We're pushing with that heel, right? And so you start, right? You start with the lift, then you start with the push. Once that gets there, then you can add the pivot and the push. And that's how you train that side kick. All right. So, Mr. Giles, real quick, all right, just do me a favor. So now that you're aligned with the camera, go ahead and just throw a few side kicks toward the camera real quick. Okay. All right. Okay. So, right. So there was a comment that, oh yeah, he's kicking a little bit off center. Right, he's kicking here and kicking here. He's not truly kicking down the line, where basically his heel should be kind of here, this way, right? Go ahead and try that again, sir. Just. All right. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, right? So now I'm going to do a couple, right? So you guys kind of saw what he did, right? I'm going to do a couple as well, right? To kind of show you. All right? Okay? I'll do it again. Okay? All right. So there's a couple of little differences the way he does it and the way I do it. All right? So one of the reasons why he keeps coming out a little bit, one is because, right, the flexibility, the extensibility, he hasn't been able to stretch regularly, kick regularly. So that's part of it, being out of practice. He's missing target. He's not used to doing this, right? He's been trying to take care of his feet, protect his feet, right? Rest up, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you noticed, right, go ahead and all I want you to do is just kind of lift and just hold. Okay, so let's have you right on that line. That way you're lined up with the camera. All right, so. Okay, so you see that position right there, right? Okay, all right. So what he tends to do, though, is, right, this is good because then from here, when he extends, it's more straight when he holds it, right? But what happens is when he's kicking, right, it doesn't happen. So go ahead and just throw a kick. All right. He's trying now. He's trying to fix it. I see it right now. He's just trying to fix it, right? So go ahead. All right. It's better, right? Okay. So this is what happens when you start to add speed to the technique. When you start to, hey, kick regular speed, all right? This is what happens for a lot of people, right? They extend too early. They kick too early, right? They don't get that knee across here and then come here, okay? So from a side view, it looks like this, right? We want to be here to here. That's what we want. But what ends up happening when you start to kick fast is it looks like this, right? Did you see my knee get to here, right? It was more here. It didn't get to here, okay? So when they start to speed up that kick, they're kicking like this. And it goes to the side, okay? So here, I'll demonstrate here, right? If I do it properly and I take my time, I'm going straight down the line. If I kick too early, where did my kick end up? It was on this side, right? I can still see you, but I'm not getting to the target, right? Because my timing's not right, right? I'm not getting my knee to here where it should be. So my knee is here, and I do the same mechanics. I'm still pushing, but you see where I'm pushing to? Because I did not get that knee across my body enough. Yes, yeah. So once again, right, we talked about here, when you're teaching someone, get the knee to here, and then you can push straight, right? So now, if they're coming off the back leg, you have to get them to come to here, okay? Not to here. Does that make sense? Okay? So it's important to kind of see as you're watching, whenever you're watching kids doing their kicks, you want to look at it from all directions. You want to look at them from the side. You can definitely tell a lot looking at them straight ahead, how they're doing there. But you also want a side view and you also want a back view. All right? It's like being on the golf course. If you're a golfer, right, you don't just go up to when you're on the green, you don't just come up to the ball and go, oh, there's a hole right there. I'm just going to line up and I'm going to putt. All right? Try that at the next time you go to putt and try that and see how well that works out for you. All right? You kind of have to line things up a little bit, right? When you're on the golf, right? When you're on the golf green, it's not always flat and it's not always straight. All right? So you have to kind of look at what's everything doing. So that's where the perspective is very important. You want to be able to see from different angles what the student is doing, right? Because you can't just diagnose it looking straight ahead and kind of seeing what the technique is, right? Right? You have to kind of see, okay, yeah, I can kind of see where his knee is looking straight ahead, but I get a better view if I'm standing to the side of him or her, right? Okay, yes.
When you walk around class, you stop sometimes in rows.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. Yep. So yeah. So you'll see me kind of always when you're teaching in class. You never want to just be stationary in one spot. You want to make sure that you're going around and just taking the time. And you don't have to analyze every single angle for every student, right? Just as you're passing, you just kind of watch them. You say "Hana" and watch them through the kick, right? If it looks good, then you move on, right? If it doesn't, give them something to, hey, I need you to bring your knee up to the side a little bit more, right? And then just have them do it again, all right? So there's nothing wrong with that at all right? But if you notice, I'm always constantly pacing, right? It's not like it's like a nervous habit or anything. It's just me just trying to get around different angles, watching people from the back side, from the front side, those types of things, right? To get
making everybody nervous.
Huh?
Making everybody nervous.
Yeah, right. Yeah. and I guarantee that when people come to you or they see you watching, they're not going to be as nervous as they are with me for some reason, right? It's usually just because of the fact that I have more stripes on my belt, I guess, you know? But that's normal. That's normal, right? When people are going to be a little bit more nervous if Mr. Hyatt and Mr. Giles is watching them rather than Natalie or Julia or Dason, right? Right? Guaranteed, right? Mr. Giles' daughter is a perfect example, right? I guarantee if Julia's helping Miss Addie, right? Addie's going to be just fine, right? Mr. Hyatt or Mr. Giles is helping. Oh, if Mr. Giles is helping, it's me. Dad, I got this. Just leave me alone. I got it. Huh? But, you know, if Mr. Hyatt's there, she's going to feel a little nervous, all right? And then when I walk around, then she's all flabbergasted. She's flustered. You know, I can tell, you know, as I tell her, stop leaning, right? And, oh, I can't control it, right? Because she's so nervous, all right? And so that's where it's important to build those relationships with those students and make sure that they feel comfortable, all right? That you're not, you know, doing it to cut them down or to make them feel inadequate. We're just trying to improve the technique and make it better, right? That's the ultimate goal, all right? As an instructor, if you want to be an instructor, you have to have that desire to want to help other people, all right? As a way to help better yourself, right? My instructor always told me, right, that not only do you have to have patience when you're teaching, right, but you also have to look at it as an opportunity to better yourself. Because when I was Julia's age and I was asked to teach class, I hated it, all right? Because I had to teach class, I wasn't training, right? My mentor, Grandmaster Bobby Clayton, I saw him in person probably 3 or 4 times, right? Because he was constantly traveling. He was gone with the All-Army Taekwondo team and all this stuff like that. And then guess what happened, right? When he come, I'd be so excited because I get to train with him and so forth, all right? And then all of a sudden, everyone wants to train with him, right? And so he calls me. He goes, Honga, right? That was my nickname, Honga, right? He goes, Honga, right? I need you to help over here. What? I got so frustrated because I wasn't able to do all the cool stuff that he was bringing from Korea to train, you know, our athletes with, right? I had to help. I had to make sure that the kids were doing it right. So I never really got to train. And so for me, that frustrated me because, right, I'm here helping you get better and I'm not getting any better. But the realization was that I was getting better, right? I just wasn't physically doing it. I was watching and saying, here, right? And that's the same thing with you guys. Yeah, you may not be able to execute it, but if you understand the technique itself, you can still teach it, right? I don't expect you guys to throw vertical side kicks like Natalie. Well, Natalie can't throw vertical side kick either, right? But I don't expect you guys to be able to throw those high kicks, but that could be a goal, right? If you know the proper mechanics on throwing a side kick, yes, we can work to get it higher, right? See, Julia, your problem is similar to Mr. Giles in the way you throw your side kick, right? Remember how we always talk about you're off target, right? And that's the reason why, right? Getting that knee to here, right? Versus starting your kick when it's here. Right? Does that make sense? Right? But you want to use these opportunities when you get to sit down and kind of watch someone do it, right? Mr. Giles, you can do this with your daughters. Or excuse me, Mr. Hyatt, you can do it with your daughters. You can do it with your daughter as well, right? Julia, you can do it with your sister, right? Make sure that they're doing it correctly, right? Take a look and say, hey, can you throw a side kick for me, right? You're helping me, right? I'm going to try to help you, right? But you're helping me train, all right? And have them throw a few to kind of help diagnose that process. How can we improve on that, all right? I can pull my son up here and you can look at his side go thinking that's pretty good, right? Because his foot position's all nice and everything like that. But you're going to find out that his technique is not very strong. It looks good, but there's no power. There's no snap, right? Mr. Giles, he may not be able to hit target quite right. He's kicking off a little bit center, but you will always hear snap in his uniform. All right? Mr. Daniel's the same way. He's always missing target, right? But when he kicks, right, you always hear power, and then you always hear like, oh, man, I think I tweaked something, right? Or I'm going to hurt myself or something of that nature, right? So we have to be careful. You don't want to overdo it, you know, especially men, us men. We have a pride issue. We're very proud of ourselves, right? And so sometimes we need to learn how to dial it down, right? I had a gentleman that used to be one of our instructors. His name was Pete Cruz. And this guy would never be outdone. He was like 60 years old, and he was the Energizer Bunny, right? Every kick that he did, he was kicking like he's breaking 11 boards. Front kick, roundhouse kick, axe kick, right? And he looked like he was going to die, right? He'd throw a kick, ah! You know, and he's barely able to stand up, right? But you can never shortchange him for effort at all right? But because of his pride, I would tell him, hey, let's fix the technique. Dial it down. Dialing it down is just not key-upping. He was still kicking as hard as he could. He was still trying to break 11 boards, but he wasn't key-upping. That was his way of dialing down because his pride wouldn't allow him to. And so it was hard to train him to get him to do the things properly. Right? So it's important for us to, even when we're working on things, is to set a good example. Right? Set a good example. So if you're going to teach someone to do something, make sure that you're also willing to do the same. If you're telling them, don't kick so hard, let's slow it down a little bit. You got to be willing to do the same. Right? So this goes to you, Mr. Daniel. I'm speaking to you, right? Because we're trying to prevent you from injuring yourself and
Thanks, sir.
me.
Thanks, sir.
Right?
Appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't want you to be ghosting me again for another 10 years because,
I'm not ghosting you. I will never do that again.
He did. He sent me Mr. Roldan as a present, as a peace offering. Hey, I know someone that.
That's awesome.
So, all right. So let's go a little bit more to the hook kick now, right? Because that side kick and hook kick are very similar. All right. So when we're doing that hook kick motion, it's the same thing. What I want you to do is I want you to think about, start it with the side kick motion. And remember how when we first started, I said just kick down the line this way. This one here, right? Kick out a little bit. One of the big problems that we have with hook kick is, right? Most people, when they think a hook kick, is just, okay, I'm going to bend my knee. That's the hook. That's the hook. And yes, to an extent it is, right? Because all the hook motion is this. That's what creates the motion of the hook, right? How we get there is what's more important, right? So what we have to do is, one, right? If we go straight out and we hook, that's partially correct, right? Think about it, right? It's partially correct, right? That's the tail end of the hook, right? But we have to get to the starting spot, which is here, right? So once we're here, right? If we just bend our knee, see what happens? We're not getting to the target. Yeah. So what we have to train for is one, here, 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 here. That's what we have to train. Now keep in mind, this is very high level, right? We have some green belts that are 5 years old, 6 years old, right? This is very difficult for them to do, right? Without falling down, right? Without rolling on the ground. So, so for them, what we try to do is we focus on, try to move the leg a little bit, right? So if they can do this, right, that's a win. That's a win for a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, all right? It's not really good for like a teenager, all right? Because at teenagers, we want them to do better. We want them to do better than the 5-year-old or 6-year-old, right? Just like adults, we may not be able to kick as high, but we want to make sure that our technique is right, right? Because if the technique is right, 1, you minimize injury, right? 2, you're going to be more effective with the technique, okay? Right? So it's important. We want to make sure, right? What I like to do as a visual is if a person's standing in Jumbi, right? This Narangi Sogi, this parallel stance, side kick starts at the one shoulder and comes to the other shoulder. That's how much hook you need. That's how much the leg needs to move. Right? So it's not much if you think about it, right? That's really how much my knee needs to move from one shoulder to the other. So my knee moves from here to here. That's it. All right? That's all that it needs to do. Now it's a pendulum, right? It's a pendulum. So when you extend the knee out, right, the foot motion is going to go a little bit bigger, right? So if we can train this part here, that was weird, all right, boom. So here, we get to this part here, that's the first thing. So you have to train this motion where the knee is going side to side in the tuck, Go side to side this way. Then we work on extension and hook. Extension and hook. Once again, low and slow. Right? When you're training, the lower it is, the better. Okay? What you'll see with most people is when they throw that hook kick, right? You'll see 2 types of hooks. Right? Mostly when they're doing regular hook kick. Can you turn that off? When they're doing a front side hook kick, this is what we usually see. The downward hook, right? Because they're trying to get, we tell them, oh yeah, hook kick's face level, right? So how do we kick face level? Well, what do we tell the kids to kick face level, right? We tell them to pick their knee up. The higher you pick your knee up, the higher your kick's going to be, right? So they're listening. They listen to what you're saying, right? So they lift the knee up high, and then they go like this, and it hooks down. Because why? Their knee looks like a front kick. It's not a side kick position, all right? The leg's not in the side kick position. So it's important to make sure that, right, as we're practicing, we just want a level hook, right? We just want side to side level hook, right? And it starts off with just this, right? Just this, and then to this, all right? It's like when you're doing push-ups, right? You start off with your knees and the hands close to your body, right? And you can do a lot that way. And then when you're asked to get up onto your toes, it gets a little bit harder, right? When you ask students to get the leg all the way out, it's harder. So you have to start with the smaller basic movement, which is just this motion here. Moving the knee side to side, then you extend out and then you pull across. All right? Okay? So, Mr. Giles, let's go ahead and have you try just a few hook kicks there. So, yeah, of course. Okay? Yeah. Okay? Good. How about the other leg real quick? Okay, that's good. All right. So what did you guys notice? Or what did you see? Yeah, see, quiet. Silence means that he's perfect. Yeah.
Let's see about 10 more.
They're gonna kill you. That's a good one. All right. It's kind of hard because he's throwing it pretty quick, and of course there's a delay on Zoom, right? There's a little bit of a lag, right? It might be getting a little choppy and so forth, right? So one of the things that I noticed with Mr. Giles is he starts moving his leg. He starts to do this motion here, but what happens is that he doesn't finish it. So he moves it and then he stops it here. So if you notice, a lot of times when he's finishing his hook, his knee is pointed toward you instead of here, right? So what we're trying to do is, right, we want to get a little bit past. Boom, right? Okay. So that's key. We want to make sure that the knee starts here with the extension. As it moves across, we bend here. And you see how my knee is past this line here. Okay? So easiest ways to when you want students to practice this at home or something like that, it's hard to maintain balance. So grab an object like a back of a sofa, back of a chair, something solid, maybe the wall, and then you just work on this part here. 1, 2, right? And then you gradually straighten out the leg, and then you hook. Straighten out the leg and hook. Okay.
You know,
is this, what was that, sir?
I did notice one thing. It looks like performing that hook, Mr. Giles uses his upper body to try and finish that last movement.
Yep.
Where is it? The glute that brings that leg over?
Yes, glute and hammy.
That is like not an easy thing for somebody to do.
No. No, it isn't, is it? It isn't. Yeah, this part is not easy, right? The sciatic. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people, especially if they're not limber, right? Julia, you're not gonna feel this. All right? When you do your hook kick, you're not gonna feel it. These guys, right? Mr. Danielle, Mr. Hyatt, they're gonna feel this here, right? And like for me, I don't feel it because why? I've been doing a hook kick for 35 years. So, right? So typically, yeah, you do this. You may not feel it right now, but you'll be like, next morning, it's like, oh, what in the heck? Why is my lower back all tight or whatever, right? Because you're using muscles that you really haven't been used to, right? And yes, right, part of him moving his shoulder, his body's compensated. It's protecting, right? When you're really tight, right, sometimes the upper body will move to protect that lower body, right? The tightness in that lower body, so you don't pull anything, right? The body's very resilient in trying to protect itself, right? Involuntarily, right? It's like when some people, because they're worried about losing their balance, you'll see a lot of people kind of pull back on their shoulder, kind of involuntarily when they kick, so that they can land straight, right? Instead of kind of stopping it here, right? It's just a kind of a natural response to kind of pull the shoulder back, all right? Once again, it kind of goes back to my head position. If I have a hard time getting here, what does my body do? It compensates so I can get to my vision point where I can see. And so if I'm here, then guess what? My kick ends up like this. You see how my hip is sticking out? 1. All right. So I lose the effectiveness of my technique when I cannot engage my hip. Right? When I can't engage the lower body into the finishing point of the kick, I lose all of its effectiveness. Okay? Now, if you watch modern day Olympic fighting right now, they're utilizing a lot of hook kicks, right? But all it is just to touch the headgear. That's all they're doing, right? So you're going to see lots of variations of the hook kick. You'll see ones where they'll come up like this with the knee down and it comes up over the head. That's called a scorpion kick, right? Right? You're also seeing ones where they're clinched up and they can get their leg up this way and just touch that headgear, right? Once again, there's no power behind it, right? It's just, hey, if I can touch that headgear, right, with the right part of my sock, it's going to register 3 points for me, all right? What we're trying to do when we teach this kick is, would you ever use it in a self-defense situation? Probably not, all right? But what it does do is it trains our hips, right? It trains us to be able to open up our hips. Because the more open our hips become, the more limber it becomes, the more range of motion we have, the more effective we can be with front kicks, side kicks and roundhouse kicks, which are typically the kicks that we would use in a self-defense situation. All right? And that's the thing is some of the kicks that we do, we would never use. You would never use a twisting kick for power, right? And yeah, nowadays, even in fighting, right, they're using it to score, right? They're trying to do this, right? Why? Because if they come with a roundhouse kick to this side, right, there's an elbow sticking out back there. And elbow to an instep, right, elbow usually wins 99.999% of the time. Yeah, right? But if I can go the other side, avoid it, and hit, I'm going to get my points. Right? But once again, it's not it's one that creates opening of the hip, because when we do a twisting kick, my hips open up, you see? Right? This is where that kind of like doing the middle splits kind of motion is. You're opening up that hip. So the more that hip opens up, right, the wider the range of motion that you get. And so the wider the range of motion, the easier it starts to become the kick. Right? Even though I've lost a lot of my extensibility, my flexibility, being able to do side splits and things like that over the years, I can still kick fairly high, right? Because of why? Right? Because every day, right, demonstrating the technique, right, allows me to do that. So whenever you're teaching, demonstrate that technique. That'll help you, right, to preserve what you currently have. And we can still build, and we can, right, but it's a slower process as we get older, right? So Julia, enjoy your youth, right? You're going to pick up things a lot quicker than Mr. Hyatt or Mr. Daniel or Mr. Giles, all right? And for us, yes, we often, you know, we can find ourselves getting discouraged at times, right? Because it isn't coming as easy, right? So that's where, once again, the instruction piece, if you understand the technique and you can learn the technique and you can teach it properly, right? That's all that really matters, right? You don't necessarily have to be able to prove what you can do, right? Sure, you can do it. You can prove you can do it low, right? Or even midsection, right? And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that, all right? If you want the students to respect you, then basically know your stuff. That's the biggest thing, right? If you're seen by the student or perceived by the student as not really knowing, right, then it makes it much more difficult. It's just like anything else, right? When you're teaching them a front kick and your front kick doesn't look very good, right, it makes them hard to respect you, all right? And for adults, it's a lot easier for you to get the respect from a small child than it is for Julia to. All right. So Julia has extra work in order to earn that respect of the students. All right. Your scruffy beard, right? Your scruffy beard is already one of the things that gets students to pay attention, or at least listen, better than Julia. Right? Julia also has a pretty face and she's quiet, right? And so, you know, when she goes, hey, you need to do this, right? The success factor in her getting someone to do something, if they don't really want to do it, is probably 50-50 for her, right? Whereas for Mr. Giles or Mr. Hyatt, you guys will probably have about a 75 to 80% chance, right? So it's important. You know, I always stress this, Julia. I say the same thing with Natalie as well, right? Your presence is very important. Your confidence level is very important, right? The more confident you are, right, the more the kids will respect you, all right? I mean, even looking at my son, when he's working with some of the people, because he feels confident in what he knows, right, the kids will at least be willing to listen, all right? And it also helps that you have the backing of me, right? If I tell you to go do something and they're not doing it, and I walk over, pretty soon they're going to start doing it. All right? So the hardest thing for you is you got to practice on your sister, who doesn't want to listen to you, right? She doesn't want to listen to you. All right? That's hard, right? That's just like telling Josie, right, Mr. Hyatt, to work with Cora. How is that going to work? Right? It's hard. And it's just like, having Addie, right? Listening to what you have to say in feedback. She's sometimes reluctant to do so. Yeah. That's where the challenges lie in. And we have to be very patient in what we do. All right. It's not easy for my kids to want to listen to me as well. All right. So I always threaten them with it. You know what? We can stop doing this. All right. You can stay at home for the rest of your life if you want. All right. And not do this and have fun. So, all right. Tough love. You got to give them tough love every once in a while. All right. But it's a good platform for you guys to get some good practice in when you're working with your children, Mr. Giles, Mr. Hyatt, right? And your wife too, sir. Right? That's another way to help build your confidence, right? And getting them to respond. If you can get them to respond, then it's a win. You're doing something right if you can get a positive response, right? It may not be all the time, right? And that's the thing, right? There are kids that refuse to want to learn, right? But we don't give up on them, right? It's just like my faith, right? I can scream and preach to people, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm talking, come and see me, right? Let's talk or whatever, right? And they will constantly refuse, right? But it doesn't give me the excuse to say, you know what? Okay, I know you don't want to do it. I'm not going to ask anymore, all right? If we give up like that, if we go, you know what? I know you're not going to listen to me. If you walk in going, oh, I know you're not going to listen to me, but I'm going to try to do this, then you already shortchange yourself. You're not giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. You're already setting the tone, right? That I want you to fail. Okay, I got to work with you again, right? What kind of tone are you setting when you come in, like this, right? Or, okay, Jasmine. Okay, let me see your front kick. What kind of tone are you setting, right? Or even this, right? This is big body language. This is psychology, right? Being an instructor you have to be a psychologist. You have to be, a sports scientist, right? You have to be an athlete. You have to be a parent. You have to be so many different things, so many different hats you have to wear. All right? That's just being an instructor. All right? Now, if you want to make this something bigger, right? You want to be able to run your own school. You want to be able to create a school and do these kind of things. Then you have to be so many other things. All right. So we have to be able to balance and juggle all the multiple hats that we do. Just like when we're teaching technique, we have to balance and juggle all the different types of scenarios that we might run into. All right. What I taught you today is for someone that doesn't have any limitations. All right. Someone that doesn't have any injuries, doesn't have any ailments, right? It's easy to teach that, right? For me, I don't have many ailments, so I can demonstrate these techniques without problem, right? But for some people, they have bad knees, bad toes, right? They have an injury. How do we work around that? Right? So that's where you have to learn to modify things, right? A lot of people, they have problems in this area here. They get, especially men, tall men, heavy-set men, they usually get a pain in the hip joint area toward the front by the groin, right? And that's usually a tendon pull, right? Comes from pivoting, right? Think about pivoting 300 pounds or 250 pounds on a long appendage, right? And turning, right? Yeah, you strain it, you pull it, right? So a lot of times you have to teach people who are heavier to kind of learn to hop into or jump into a turn to minimize the friction. Because you think about all your weight. If you were to just stand on your one leg and try to turn with all of your weight, whatever that is, right, on that leg, it may feel okay, right? Doing it 10 times, right? Do it 100 times. And then tell me how your leg feels, right? it's important. And once again, right? If you look at everyone on like a Kukiwan demonstration team, right? There aren't sumo wrestlers on the Kukiwan demonstration team. They aren't a heavy set. Because why? Right? Because it requires them to do great feats of things, right? Flips and things in the air that we can't possibly imagine a normal person being able to do. All right? Because why? They've committed themselves to bettering themselves, right? And for some people, yes, they're not going to be able to do a jumping over a side kick, right? So that's why I don't make it a requirement for the adult red belts, right? I don't expect them to do. Yes, they can do jumps. I'll make them do jumps in class, but I'm not going to make it a requirement like I am a teenager, right? Now, you know, if I have someone in a wheelchair, am I going to adjust the curriculum? Absolutely, right? I'm going to cater it to make it challenging enough for them to feel like they're earning something. Because that's what it's all about. It's about earning. It's about feeling like you've accomplished something, right? For me, instruction now is focused on giving back, right? Giving back as much as I can, right? So that I can have the confidence knowing that if I were to put anyone in there, I'm going to set them up for success and not failure, right? Even my son, right? I don't want my son to ever have to experience a kid that doesn't want to listen to him, doesn't want to try, right? I don't want you to ever have to deal with someone that's so frustrating that it creates a bad taste in your mouth where you want to give up and you don't want to do this anymore. All right. I want you to be, you know, I want you to be better, right, than the average person. I want you to be unique in the fact that you're not the 90% that quit after getting that black belt. All right. I want you to be that special 1%, 5%, right? I want you in that 10% bubble, right? That has successfully dedicated their life to it. All right. I'm 36 years in now. All right. Officially 36 years because I started in June of 1984. All right. I never had any envision after that first class that it was going to transform my life to what it is today. All right. When I first started teaching my class, I was going, I don't ever want to do this. I don't want to teach class. I just wanted to be the student. I wanted to be Julia. I wanted to be Mr. Hyatt. I wanted to be you, sir. I just wanted to be the student. I didn't want to have someone else teach the class. But it changed because why? Right? Life kind of happened. Right? I was kind of forced into it. All right. But then through the experiences, through interacting with different people, you start to learn a lot of different things, and you find that it's making an impact. All right. And you see how someone says, oh, I can't do this, to now, oh, I can do this. I can do it. And that's what it boils down to, right? That's what it creates, is that sense of, you know what? I helped in your journey. I helped in your daughter's journey. I helped build, you know, confidence in your daughters, Mr. Hyatt. All right. I helped Miss Julia, being a shy girl when she first walked into the school, to being one that's very confident, right? That walks in not with her head down anymore. Because remember, Julia, when you used to walk into class, you always walk head down. And then you go and, you know, be very quiet, right? To someone who goes into a competition floor now and goes out there and performs. All right? That's huge, right? So it's not just a physical part. It's not just the kicking and punching and all that stuff that we're teaching. We're also teaching life skills. All right? And Mr. Hyatt, Mr. Giles, and Miss Julia, as you guys start to teach, you're going to be a part of those kids that get promoted. Those kids that make it to a black belt, they're going to have something to say for you because you're going to be a part of that contribution. All right? See, I never look back. As I look back on my past, I always remember every instructor that influenced me, that had a part in my life, whether it was just one day, one seminar, or a great portion of my life. All right? Since the 3rd degree black belt, since my 3rd degree black belt, I haven't had like structured training, right? Where I'm coming to class every day to train, all right? My training has been through me conducting the class, me brainstorming with other people, me learning. When Mr. Giles walked into my school, he said that he trained in Florida under this particular style. I'm watching that and learning from that. Mr. Hyatt coming from, was it ATA background, if I'm not mistaken, right? All of that information and learning from that, all right? Learning from my peers, learning and going out there, going to seminars and learning that way. And that's what we do. We share that knowledge. And that's why I'm doing this, to kind of help share that knowledge. I want to give back a little bit more. I haven't spent a lot of time on the black belts, right? All of our classes are all ages, right? So it makes it hard to spend time when you're focusing in on that younger generation, because you want to keep them going. You want them to make it to where you guys are at. But I've got to spend time with you guys as well, because otherwise you're going to feel neglected. All right. Why do you continue to do something if you feel like you're not gaining anything or being better because of it? So, all right. So we spent a lot of time on the side kick and the hook kick. They're both very similar, right? The starting position is always the same. All right. So take what you remember. I'll post this online as well, but just kind of review that and then kind of practice for yourself. And then practice with your children and your sister, right? To kind of help you see it, as well as how do I get them to perform it better. All right. Any thoughts, comments, or questions as we finish up? No? You're good?
How much Mr. Giles has improved with all this information?
Yep. Absolutely, right? Knowledge is power, as they say. So, any questions, Julia? No?
No, not much.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, and it's going to be hard, right? The journey of an instructor is not always glorious. You're never going to get, you'll always hear the bad feedback on how bad you're doing. You'll typically hear a lot of that, right? You won't always hear that you're doing a good job, all right? But if that's what you're expecting, then the instruction is not for you, okay? If you're expecting people to constantly pat you on the back saying, hey, you're doing a good job, right? Instruction's not for you, because you're going to hear more the negative than you are the positive. And that's the same thing. As we teach, we will kind of do that too. As we teach, we'll start focusing on, hey, this is what you're doing wrong, rather than, hey, this is what you're doing right. So you have to be careful of that. We have to be careful of falling into that, because society teaches us that. Society teaches you how bad you are, how wrong you are, how dumb you are, right? That's what it really focuses on versus, hey, you're great, you're great, you're great. You're amazing, right? You'll hear you're bad versus you're good. You'll always hear you're bad first, or what you can improve on, versus, hey, you did that spectacular, you're great. It's up to us to change that narrative, all right? Trust me, I fall into that too, all right? My kids will always hear something they're doing wrong first before they hear something positive from me, all right? I have a habit of that, because why? Society has geared me to that. So if I make a conscious effort to change that, right, and better myself, then guess what, right? All the other people around me are going to benefit from that. So, all right. Well, enjoy your weekend. Thanks so much for coming in, sir. All right. So thanks you guys for tuning in. All right. And next Saturday, we'll do it again. Let's see. And then the following Saturday is July 4th weekend. So we will not be doing anything, because that's officially July 4th. All right. So I'm sure that most people are either going to try to get away for the weekend on a little road trip, or, spend time with their families, which is what I would encourage you guys all to do anyway. So we won't do anything on July 4th, but we'll continue on every Saturday at about this time. I am also considering maybe doing a Saturday morning class here at Apex and on Zoom. I just kind of looking at my schedule with all the other obligations that I have to see if I can fit that in. So if I can do it, I'm going to try to make that work. So, all right. All right. Well, enjoy your weekend, you guys. Have a blessed weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. You're welcome. Take care.